Things are gonna get crazy!
Most everyone's mad here.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another exciting episode of AniMat's Crazy Cartoon Cast. How are you all doing, everybody? I hope things are going well with you, and especially, I do hope that you do get the time to go and adjust yourself to the daylight savings time that we just recently had. I know that with me, I am still taking a little bit of time to go and let my body especially to go and adjust, but I mean, I'm catching up with it, and it doesn't take just one immediate day and then suddenly, oh, okay, I'm set to the new time. But then again, I do completely understand that, we shouldn't even be having this, but at least for now, we are at the point where, well, in our days, we are going to get more sun and at a much later time. Seriously, I know that whenever daylight savings ends, it can happen when I'll go and start the episode of the podcast and it would be nighttime. And yes, it would still be at 4 p.m. Eastern. So that's the crazy things. That's the crazy thing with this daylight savings time. But even with that, though, there has still been a lot of wild things that have been happening in this world, including the Tesla boycotts that are still working out amazingly well, down to the point where it's a lot of fun to see that downhill slope that the stocks are going on Tesla. And also just a quick thing to go and quickly mention, free Mahmoud Khalil, because if you guys don't know what happened with that guy, or if you don't know who he is, let's just say that the real anti-Semites are illegally arresting him just for expressing his freedom of speech. So I just want to go and say that right there. But anyways, with all that said, though, we are still going to get a fun-filled episode. Funny enough, there is a little bit of a theme with unions that are going to be going on, so we will be looking into those stories, and of course, we will be checking out a very interesting trailer, not for an upcoming project, but for a scrap project, and trust me, there will be a lot of things to go and discuss about that one. So, with all that said, now I would like to go onto the chat wall, and I'd like to ask you all, are you ready for today's episode of AniMat's Crazy Cartoon Cast? So, let me hear it, folks. Are you ready? Let's see now. Yes. Oh, okay. I see people are prepared. All right. That's wonderful to go and see. Oh, did we, wait, did I miss out on a new fish or... Okay, maybe not. All right, so I see it's already going well. People are all prepared on that. And so, with that said, it is now time that we shall go and get things started. And our first story that we have for you today, well, unfortunately, we are going to begin on a little bit of a sad note here, considering that we did get another legend who has sadly passed away. One in which made a significant impact in the history of animation, specifically with his voice and how he actually began. He was like a key player in starting a new chapter on television animation. So without further ado, let us go and begin our first story by taking a look at George Lowe. Yes, George Lowe has sadly passed away at the young age of 67 on March 2nd. And it is said here, reading from my source on Animation Magazine, that a cause of death was described as a long illness, and the actor, comedian, and visual artist had been inactive on social media for some time. The news of his passing was confirmed by his representatives. Now, for those of you who are unfamiliar with George Lowe, he is mostly known as a voice actor, specifically as the voice of Space Ghost. Now, maybe not necessarily the voice of Space Ghost in the original cartoon that he originated in, but he's actually more known as the voice of Space Ghost in Space Ghost Coast to Coast, along with playing a key role in creating the show alongside Andy Merrill. In fact, let me go and actually read you like a little passage here on Animation Magazine about Space Ghost, in which it says, while Space Ghost is associated with the birth of Adult Swim, his talk show spoof predated the mature audience programming block by several years. The concept of Space Ghost Coast to Coast was created by Mike Lazo, Cartoon Network's first ever programmer and later VP of programming for the network, to be TBS's first adult targeted tune, and stemmed from brainstorming by Andy Merrill and editor-producer Jay Edwards to come up with a rhyming title for a marathon of 1960s Space Ghost episodes. So from there, he took on the role of Space Ghost, but not only that, but he also appeared in numerous of adult animated shows. In fact, he became kind of this staple of adult animated series for quite some time, especially for Adult Swim, because on top of being the voice of Space Ghost in Space Ghost Coast to Coast, he was also the voice of several others as well, just to go and find it. Yes, like right here on Adult Swim, he has been known as the voice, or he has been known to provide his voice in shows like Cartoon Planet, C-Lab 2021, The Brack Show, Perfect Hair Forever, and Aqua Teen Hunger Force. And on top of that, he also played several different voices, even like smaller roles on other shows like Celebrity Deathmatch, Assy McGee, Squidbillies, American Dad, 12-Ounce Mouse, and Robot Chicken. But on top of being an actor, he is also noted to be a massive fan of modern art and a major collector, in which it is and not only a collector, but even an actual artist himself. This right over here is actually an example of his works, which in this case here, it's called Every Good Boy Does Fine. So it states here in terms of, his intrigue in art, it says that outside his work as a voice and live actor, Lowe was a passionate collector of modern art as well as an artist himself. He bought his first Picasso print while at college, choosing to spend the money on this art piece over a car, and amassed a collection of more than 700 pieces by the likes of Andy Warhol, Claes Oldenburg, and Tom Wesselman. He once met Reverend Howard Finster and was inspired to seek out and collect other folk art. Lowe's own works as a self-taught artist, detailed, complex, abstract landscapes crafted in intricate combinations of media, are housed in permanent collections of the High Museum of Art in Atlanta, Polk Museum Art, now the Ashley Gibson Barnett Museum of Art at Florida Southern College, Georgia Museum of Arts in Athens, American Visionary Art Museum in Baltimore, and numerous of private collections. Now, there's a lot to go and say about George Lowe, both as an artist and also an actor. But the real big thing about him is that he was the voice of Space Ghost. And there's a very significant thing when it comes to Space Ghost Coast to Coast, because we're not just talking about the first ever adult-oriented animated show on Adult Swim. Like, this isn't just the first Adult Swim show, but also it was the first original show on Cartoon Network, period. Like, this was back during Cartoon Network's infancy, back when it was still exclusively airing just classic Looney Tunes and Hanna-Barbera cartoons on television. And then they decided to go and take a new step where they would go and present Space Ghost Coast to Coast, taking the classic Space Ghost cartoon and tried to update that in a more comedic way by turning it into a talk show and taking the old animations and update it as they please, or just update it and use it in a different way to go and present their little comedic bits, with Space Ghost being the host, and then you also got the other helpers, like his assistants like Brack, Zorak, and Moltar, who were villains in the original cartoon, but now just Space Ghost co-hosts or buddies, or just helping out the show in general in their weird, wacky way. So with that big significance of the fact that it was technically the first Adult Swim show, it makes George Lowe one of the significant and iconic voices of Adult Swim. As you could see from my list that I read on Animation Magazine, like he went on to go and provide his voice in numerous of other Adult Swim shows, like where he would also be in C-Lab 2021. He was also in the Brack Show. I remember like he would play as Brack's dad in the series. He would also appear a lot in Robot Chicken, 12 Ounce Mouse, Squidbillies, and several others. And even though his voice is, he's done a lot of projects, but the big one has always been Space Ghost. And honestly, when you do listen to him, like his voice is pretty much perfect for Space Ghost. Like they casted him perfectly, mainly because of, number one, the voice, like just the sound of it, matches perfectly with who Space Ghost is in Space Ghost Coast to Coast. Now, maybe it's not exactly like how he sounded in the original series. Maybe it's not like an identical match, but that was not the goal. George Lowe's voice sounded very much like something out of the 1960s. It sounded legit like some kind of 1960s superhero in a very cheesy series. Like like you listen to Space Ghost and you can actually hear like, stop right there, you fiend. I'm gonna go and save the day. Like he has that voice to go and like really match up the style of like what Space Ghost used to be. So he did sound like he is straight from that era, but at the same time, George Lowe has this great comedic sense. Like he has this very strong wit that was able to go and transcend very well onto Space Ghost to go and give him that charisma. And with George Lowe's voice, like no matter which character he would go and play, like even though like it could sound very much like he would with Space Ghost, there's a lot of times that you can also hear him as different characters, but they can match up well, that you could be convinced that it is a different character. In fact, in this article, it actually did provide some examples of like some of his other performances. Like a great example is in Aqua Teen Hunger Force, where he actually got to play himself. So let's just have a quick look at this clip.
Send voiceover artist George Lowe.
I'm not getting off the town.
That's fine, Aunt Krabby. I still get paid. You just stay right where you are. Seriously. I got 40 large to do this.
Okay, all right. So that's just one great example to hear about George Lowe, like his sense of comedic timing. And like even in Aqua Teen Hunger Force, like they kind of present him as like the real oddball, like kind of this Adam West style character like in Family Guy. But that's just an example of hearing his talent. And I know for a while, like he had been oddly absent and not many people knew about the sickness that he actually had. But it wasn't until very recently that he did manage to come back. And for the final time, he did manage to reprise his role as Space Ghost in Jellystone. And I actually do have the clip right over here. Just a moment to go and listen. And I feel like, you know what, it might as well be very fitting to go and actually hear his final performance as Space Ghost. And you'll see that even though it's been quite a while, there is a bit of a significant difference between like how he was then and like recently. But still, though, with his performance, like you'll hear that it'll pull through.
Sometimes when I look up at the stars, I feel a yearning. What does it all mean?
Now, I gotta say, that is actually a very, it feels like a very, like maybe unintentional, but it is a very fitting finale for George Lowe's performance as Space Ghost. And I mean, you could hear in his voice that the sickness like was starting to actually get to him. But still, though, the energy that he brings out, the performance that he would go and deliver. Like, it is still that same Space Ghost, like in Coast to Coast, that there is still, you know, like, you can hear that it is still him, that like the Space Ghost we all remember, like, it's still, like, at the time was alive and well, even though you can hear that there is a bit of that difference, but the charisma still transcended through. And even though with this one, it's like, it's kind of like pretty funny where Space Ghost was just immediately convinced that he now became Peter Potamus, and not to mention, it's like, I don't know if many people like even mention, it's just funny to suddenly see Space Ghost holding up this waifu pillow. Like, I got, like, honestly, that feels like it matches. I don't know. I don't know about you guys, but I feel like with Space Ghost, he does seem like the kind of guy who would unironically have an anime body pillow. So honestly, it's like a cute addition. Yeah, like, and I mean, Jellystone in general is meant to be this very goofy show. I mean, I love it. It is absolutely hilarious. But honestly, like, with something like this, it's like, yeah, it checks out there. But still, though, this is all to go and say that when it comes to George Lowe, he really was the definitive voice of not just Space Ghost, but Adult Swim in general. And with his performance, he really did set this standard of what would be to come for not just Adult Swim, but also with adult animated shows in general, that he would go and actually present like this very goofy comedic style, but at the same time pushing out like some very strong charisma with the performances that he would go and bring, whether it be with Space Ghost or many others. So yeah, it definitely is an unfortunate loss that we had with George Lowe, and may he rest in peace. And I do hope his legacy does live on, and that we will remember Space Ghost as that goofy, fun host of Coast to Coast. Because honestly, yeah, there was the original show, but Coast to Coast was really something that made quite a strong impact for generations to come. All right, so with that said, now I would like to go onto the chat wall, and I'd like to ask you all, how do you feel about the legacy of George Lowe? And if you would like to go and share your thoughts on whatever performance from George Lowe, like if you have a favorite character, or if you enjoyed watching Space Ghost Coast to Coast, I would like to know what you think. All right, so let's see here. As a fan of Aqua Teen Hunger Force, there is no better voice for Space Ghost than George Lowe. His voice was pitch perfect for the character, dare I say it. He's one of those guys who could have recited the dictionary and made it sound interesting. He was a great voice actor and comedian, and as such, his presence is definitely going to be missed. So Godspeed, George Lowe. One has to wonder if he's up there with the mighty Jimmy right now. Yes. You know, honestly, like there is a little bit of a bittersweet note, but at least like now, well, the team is almost together, and now we got space, you know, we know Space Ghost won't be alone. Like, at least he'll have Zorak there to keep him company. All right. Let's see. Any other comments? Just want to go and watch. Let's see. I guess I'll go with... all right. I don't have big memories of Space Ghost or any other shows that George Lowe did participate in, but I do like his low bass voice. He was also in the Beetlejuice TV, by the way. Also, another actor that has recently passed away, Simon Fisher Becker, who played in the first Harry Potter movie as Fat Friar, and in several episodes of Doctor Who and Dorian Moldovar. So may he also rest in peace alongside George Lowe. I gotcha. Let's see. Even though I never watched Space Ghost Coast to Coast, and I definitely should give it a chance, the impact George Lowe has on the world of voice acting is very influential. To a lot of people, he is a very talented voice actor with an iconic voice, thanks to his time as Space Ghost, and I will say that with Jellystone, it's a really sweet finale to his contribution to voice acting and the character. I will definitely agree that Jellystone is a fun show, and I love it. Have you seen the Cartoon Network crossover? No, I haven't, honestly. I know that just recently they did put out the new episodes of Jellystone, so eventually I will catch up on them for sure. You know, I'm definitely interested to see that. Oh, here's an interesting one. I met George back in 2023 at Central Florida's Comic-Con, and he was funny and a chill person. He was a funny and chill person I've ever met. I grew up on Space Ghost Coast to Coast, and sad to see that his last role was in Jellystone. He will be missed. P.S. My favorite Space Ghost episode was to be season 7, Knifing Around. Nice, dude. All right. Let's see. Any other comments just to see? Okay. Whilst I've only seen maybe like 5 episodes of Coast to Coast, but I've seen Aqua Teen Hunger Force, and now he's gone and he will be missed. And he is a fan favorite, that Space Ghost guy. Now this is Space Ghost signing off one last time on the streets of Jellystone. All right, I think I'll go and read one more comment before we go and move on. Let's see now, because I know not many of you have probably seen Space Ghost Coast to Coast. So, all right, so there we are. Let's see. I never watched any Space Ghost Coast to Coast episodes, but it is pretty sad to see the legendary George Lowe disappear. He is the great actor for not just the show being popular, but also a big impact on Cartoon Network in the mid-1990s. All right, so once again, may George Lowe rest in peace, and hopefully his legacy that he put onto both Space Ghost and Adult Swim, and I would even say on adult television or adult animation, will forever live on. All right, so we're going to go on to our first break right now, and when we do come back, we will have an interesting talk related to some news that I gotta say is rather shocking. Like, I don't know if I should be upset or confused about this, but it's kind of weird to see Sesame Street pulling a move like this, so stay tuned for that. All right, welcome back. Now, on our next story right over here, yeah, this is a rather weird one because out of all the companies out there, you wouldn't think this one in particular would actually go and pull a move like this, especially considering the show that they would go and actually work on. I feel like this would go completely against their values. And what I'm talking about, of course, is in regards to Sesame Street. Yes, Sesame Workshop, the studio behind Sesame Street, has announced that they have to go and do a whole bunch of layoffs. Now, there is no confirmation as to how many people are going to get laid off, but apparently they say that Sesame Workshop is now going to be going through... excuse me. But as I was saying, yes, Sesame Workshop is now going to be going through a significant downgrade and will have to go, or a significant downsize, and will have to go and sacrifice some of their employees in order to go and keep going. And the reason, or at least the reason they would go and explain, is mainly because of what happened a few months ago. Now, you may recall that there was the news in which Warner Brothers Discovery decided that they would no longer go and renew their contract with Sesame Workshop in order to keep the show on Max. So right now, I mean, like, I think things are still going, like, the contract is still good up until the end of 2025. You could go and correct me if I'm wrong on that. But the point is that now they're going to go and end the contract, and they're not going to go and renew it, which leaves the future of Sesame Street in question in terms of where is their new home? Where can they go and not only present all the old episodes, but also where can they go and put up the new episodes as well? So that is still remain in question, and even as I am recording this, there doesn't seem to be like a new official home for Sesame Street as of yet. So because of that moment and that they're still searching, right now Sesame Workshop decided, okay, you know what? If we're going to go and continue Sesame Street, then we'll have to go and downsize in order to go and save costs. But there is also another thing that actually did happen during that time. In fact, it was just a day before that there was another significant news that did occur related to Sesame Street, and that is in relation to a union. Yes, apparently the employees at Sesame Street, specifically over 200 of them, or I mean specifically Sesame Workshop, that they have revealed that they wanted to go and actually unionize. Considering that there have already been some people in there like writers and some of the puppeteers, like they're already part of the union, but now the other employees at Sesame Workshop, they want to go and organize their own. So if I may go and jump here to my other source here on toughpigs.com, it actually states, earlier this week, administrative staff at Sesame Workshop have unionized under the Office and Professional Employee International Union, Local 153. While this doesn't involve the show's cast and crew, which are already represented by different unions, over 200 employees, including early childhood education experts, fundraisers, faculty staff, producers, paralegals, and more, have joined OPEIU. And there's also a little extra quote here coming from Phoebe Gilpin, the Senior Director of Former Learning. Sesame Street has taught generations the importance of kindness, fairness, and standing up for what's right. As the dedicated staff behind this beloved show and so much more, we believe Sesame Workshop should embody those same values by ensuring all workers have a voice in the decisions that affect us. By coming together, we believe we can build a stronger, more supportive workplace that embodies the crucial lessons that we teach the world's children every day. The union hopes to begin negotiation with Sesame on a first contract in the coming weeks. So basically, this is the part where this news does get a little bit messy. It is regarding the fact that because of the timing of all this, it really feels very suspicious of the fact that one day the employees of Sesame Workshop decided to go and form a union, and then immediately the day afterwards, that's when Sesame Workshop decided that they would go and immediately do a whole bunch of layoffs. Oh, and I did almost forget, by the way, there is another quote from the side of Sesame Workshop in which they did say something in regards to the layoffs. Just to go and read you here from my source on The Hollywood Reporter, as it says right over here. Amidst the changing media and funding landscape, we have made the difficult decision to reduce the size of our organization. These changes are necessary to ensure that the workshop is poised to continue to deliver on its mission for years to come, but that does not make the human impact of these reductions any less painful. As production of our 56th season begins next month, we remain as committed as ever to bringing Sesame Street to children and families for decades to come. Now, one thing that I do have to say about this, and one thing that I personally find to be rather surprising, or let me just go and get the good part out of the way. It's actually the fact that with Sesame Workshop and with the people there, it's great to hear that now they're actually forming a union. But still, though, I guess I said that it was surprising, mainly because of the fact that it's only now that they decided to go and form a union, that after like over 50 years, over 55 years, in fact, of Sesame Street being one of the biggest television shows in history, that now the employees decided to go and that they would form their own union. You'd think that would be something crucial that they would have done like decades ago, or that it would have already been implanted. And yes, like I am aware that this is regarding like the other people, and that you would think like, oh, well, I mean, Sesame Street is already unionized with like the Writers Guild and SAG-AFTRA and stuff like that. But this one specifically, though, is for all the other workers of Sesame Street, all the other people who are part of the show that are not either like writers or actors or any of the key players in terms of actually making the show itself, but the people who do play a part in the series to make Sesame Street the legendary series that it is today. But then again, I would say that, better late than never to go and do so. So it is great to go and hear that a union is being formed and that those people as well can actually be protected and have their rights when creating a series like Sesame Street. So I will say that is actually great on them. But then there is the unfortunate part about how, well, now a bunch of employees have to be let go and that Sesame Workshop has to go and significantly downsize. And again, the timing of this just feels absolutely suspicious. Now, it is worth mentioning that it needs to be said that there isn't necessarily a direct link onto those two events. In fact, even toughpick.com actually did put out a statement right over here saying that right now we have no evidence that either event was caused by the other. We'll report as we continue to learn more about this ongoing story. So there is no true confirmation in regards to what caused one or what caused the other. It's not because since these layoffs were happening and that they heard about the downsizing, that now they want to go and form a union, or the other way around that, a union is being formed, so now Sesame Workshop would have to go and lay off a bunch of people. There is no confirmation, but it's just the timing of it feels like it's a little bit off, especially in terms of the fact that we have heard this story before. This is the kind of thing that whenever you would hear about unions and layoffs, usually the stories would feel extremely suspicious, and you would tell that the reason why there would be layoffs would be caused by anti-union means or anti-union tactics in order to actually go and do so. In fact, I could actually think of a very recent example that for me, well, let's just say that it did hit close to home. And this actually occurred about a month ago, in which Amazon actually announced that they would go and close down all the warehouses that are in the province of Quebec. And we actually had a good bunch. I think we had 7 or 6 in total. And Amazon decided that they would just go and completely let them all go. But why would they do that? Is it because business in Canada has not been going well? Nope. It's actually because in one of those warehouses, that the employees there wanted to go and form a union. And considering that with Amazon, they feel like unions are a threat to Jeff Bezos' wealth, they decided to go and punish all Quebecers. Basically to go and shut down every single warehouse in there so that they wouldn't even get the idea of a union. They don't want any idea, they don't want any ideas of a union to suddenly go and spread in Quebec. So they decided to go and punish everybody in Quebec, to sacrifice all of those jobs, like the dozens, if not hundreds of jobs that were in Quebec that Amazon supplied, decided to just go and quickly let that go. All in fear of that paranoia of a possible union being formed in one of their warehouses. And I mean, this is not an uncommon story. This has often happened where you would see these big corporations who are completely against unions and that they would do these kinds of tactics mainly to go and send a message that they still maintain the power and they'll do anything it takes to go and ensure that no unions would be formed under their supervision, under their company, no matter what. So it does feel extremely suspicious when you would go and see Sesame Workshop go and immediately downsize itself just after it was revealed that now they want to go and unionize. It's just a very weird thing to go and experience. But again, there's still a lot of information that we don't 100% know about. Like, we don't know if many of these people who got let go were supposed to be part of the union, or if they were meant to be like union leaders and stuff like that. And like, honestly, we just don't know. We don't fully know what the answer may be in terms of any of that. So I guess it's just something that we will have to wait and see with how Sesame Workshop is going to respond now that there is a union that is going to be formed, and if they will do some, if they will happily go and collaborate with them. If, like, the best case scenario of this would be if the timing is just pure coincidental. But right now, from what's being shown, it just feels like Sesame Workshop is doing something that feels completely, it's doing something that goes completely against their values. It goes against the values of Sesame Street. That's why it's like, I feel more confused than I am upset, because if that is the case, that Sesame Workshop doesn't want to collaborate with a union, then it's just weird to go and see how, like, Sesame Workshop, a place that would go and produce a show that is all about working together, about kindness, about empathy, about helping others, would suddenly go and take this anti-union stance. I mean, yeah, sure, they're already working with other unions, again, like with the Writers Guild and SAG-AFTRA and stuff like that. Yeah, that's already established. But I mean, in this industry, like, you kind of have to. You don't really have much of a choice if you want your show to go somewhere. But in the case of forming their own union, like, it would just be so bizarre to see them not go with it, to see them try to exclude the idea of Sesame Workshop, or the idea of, like, having, giving a union to the employees of Sesame Workshop. That's what I meant. It's just so weird to think about the possible idea of Sesame Street being anti-union. It's like what I said on social media. It's like the most un-Sesame Street thing you could think of that they would unironically go and do. It's like you sit there and you're thinking, like, wait a minute, something is just not right with that. So yeah, overall, I just wanted to go and express my piece on this, and hopefully we will go and get more answers soon about what the case may be. And I do wish the workers at Sesame Workshop all the best to go and form their own union, and that hopefully with Sesame Workshop that they will be happy to go and actually comply, and that they wouldn't be the anti-union corporation that we would fear that they would be. All right, so with that said and done, now I would like to go onto the chat wall, and I'd like to ask you all, how do you feel about the whole situation about Sesame Workshop laying off their employees while around the same time the employees are trying to form a union? Do you feel like it is suspicious? Do you understand where Sesame Workshop is coming from? I would like to know what you think with your opinion here. All right, so I hope Sesame Street will find a new place soon, or else we would lose a legacy show, and we don't want that. Sucks that many are trying to get rid of it, but we don't want the show to end. Speaking of Sesame Street, I know the show did have a crossover with its Mexican counterpart, Plaza Sésamo. Ever seen it before? Big Bird's cousin is a Spanish-speaking parrot. I mean, I did hear that, like, I am aware that there are many different versions of Sesame Street depending on, like, which country it is. Like, I know in Canada, we temporarily had our version of Sesame Street called Sesame Park, but that didn't really last long because we're still, even we Canadians are heavily attached to Sesame Street. But I did hear, like, all the different versions, and especially all the different Big Birds. In fact, I actually do recall there was a video I did see that had Big Bird, like the Big Bird we all know and love, and the Spanish Big Bird, like Big Bird's cousin, where they would recite the alphabet in Spanish. It was a fun video to go and watch. All right, let's see what other comments we have here. This is definitely unfortunate. The fact Sesame Workshop ended up laying off employees right at the same time as they decided to unionize is really unfortunate. While it is good that they got unionized, it's still unfortunate. Also, I'm wondering what Sesame Street future will be. Personally, I think Disney Plus would be a solid home, considering that they already have Bluey, so they have two of the biggest preschool shows of all time. Well, that honestly, I feel like will remain to be seen. But at the same time, I do want to mention, yes, I do understand that when it comes to the future of Sesame Street, it is still like in this like limbo area where there are some uncertainties. And this is not even to mention about the political factor onto this, because we are aware that when it comes to stuff like Project 2025, they do want to get rid of Sesame Street for the purpose of making people more apathetic, so that whenever like Trump would go and like commit genocide to whichever group he wants, nobody would go and care. So in that regards, yes, I do understand that it's still scary to think about the possibility if there will be a Sesame Street in the future. But still, though, hopefully there can be something that will go through. And I will say, like, giving a union to the employees, it is a step up to go and help the show itself, and especially to go and help the employees. So maybe there could be a bit of a silver lining that the people can be well treated, and that when they are well treated, they can go and actually return the favor to go and save the show. So yeah, like we are still in a pretty scary time for Sesame Street, but so far all we can do is just hope for the best. And that's why, like, even for me, I am hoping for the best that when it comes to Sesame Workshop, that they're not anti-union, and that they wouldn't go and try to fight against they wouldn't fight against the union that is currently being formed. Let's see what other comments we got here. This is absolutely disheartening news. Hopefully, Sesame Workshop unionizing will mitigate some of the problems facing Sesame Street, even though this doesn't solve the problem of the funding of the show itself. Like, I don't know why they didn't immediately get to work on bringing Sesame Street to Disney Plus. Disney already owns the Muppets. Why not bring Sesame Street under the same corporate umbrella? Ooh, boy, that is a bit of an iffy thing. Like, I understand the argument about having Sesame Street appear on a prominent platform like Disney Plus, but I will say, like, talking about Disney owning Sesame Street, that's an entire can of worms. That's honestly like a whole subject in itself that I know can be extremely controversial, because especially when it comes to the subject of Disney in general, I know that there will be like a bunch of heated arguments on social media regarding the possible idea of Disney owning Sesame Street in the first place. So yeah, I don't know. Like, even for me, I'm a little hesitant to even think about the idea of having Disney to go and come in and actually acquire Sesame Street for the sake of saving the legacy and the show. So I don't know if I immediately want to go and like discuss about that, because like, oh boy, that's a bit of a territory that even I'm not ready to go and actually cross and actually fully discuss about. Anyways, let's see what other comments do we have here. I got to say, this is something I didn't expect today, especially around Sesame Street. However, considering what has been happening these past years, it just feels like all sorts of media that people can't seem to catch a break. I can say, I even agree, this anti-union thing seems just off and raises more questions than answers. Although, just an idea here, but do you think they should team up with Peacock? I think you meant Peacock, but anyways, just saying, that site could use a little more children's shows in their platform. I don't know. I mean, that could be a possible idea. And I've seen in the chat wall, some of you did suggest some other ideas other than Disney Plus. Like, some of you have said, like, maybe you can go with, you could go with either Apple TV Plus. That could be an example. I don't know about Amazon, considering what I recently talked about. I think I even mentioned about Amazon before, but nowadays it's like, and especially with how Jeff Bezos is being a Trump simp, it's like, I don't know if I want to trust him with Sesame Street. So I don't know. Like, they already got James Bond. I don't know if I want that to have Sesame Street as well. So yeah, I don't know. I feel like, the idea of Apple TV Plus owning Sesame Street, or not owning Sesame Street, but distributing the episodes of Sesame Street, that could actually be a good move, considering that they already did have, the Peanuts onto their platform. So seeing them also have Sesame Street would not necessarily be a bad idea. But I mean, we will see. All right, so let's see what other comments would there be. Let me see. I think I already read you. Let's see. Okay. All right, we'll go with this one. This news is both heartbreaking and considered good for workers. This is upsetting because it significantly downsized for workers and restructure its operations in the wake of Warner Brothers Discovery's decision not to renew its distribution deal for Sesame Street. Hopefully that this show will bring a new home for generations for kids and families. Maybe Disney will pick that up since it has some relation. I won't be surprised at Donald Trump playing on anti-Palestinian prejudice on global vision of this show. Yeah, of course, there is that too. And surprisingly enough, another one that wants to go and actually have Disney to go and like save Sesame Street. All right, let me see if there is... let's see if there... I think I'll read one more and then we'll go and move on to the next story. So... this is really sad and confusing to hear about the layoffs. A company that gives us the most influential and impactful children's show of all time now wants to lay people off who thought that starting a union is a good idea. Well, there's no confirmation of that really is the case. Again, these are like allegations. I'm not mad or upset about it. I'm just disappointed. And I will agree that with Bezos and his greedy wealth, he's more of a stupid bozo than a Bezo. All right, so I believe with that said, we will now go and we're going to go on to another break. And when we do come back, there is another union story to go and discuss. But this time around, there are no allegations, there are no suspicions. This one is just a matter of fact that it's just a big fat W. So we will go back. We will go and take a break, and then we will see our next union story. All right. So with our next story that I have over here, we're going to talk about something that is a little bit unusual and something that you don't often hear every day, and that is in regards to Disney. And we actually have some good news about Disney. Yeah, it's kind of weird to actually hear that, considering that, well, on social media, you won't actually hear a whole lot of news that are positive towards Disney, considering that, well, hating on them and being negative about Disney is what generally gets more views, more clicks, and more likes and stuff like that. But in this case here, yes, Disney actually did a very good, in fact. Or I should say, more specifically, the people working at Disney, because there is a monumental occasion that happened that some would think would have never happened, especially with how the parent company can be. But it looks like they managed to overcome that, and now Walt Disney Animation Studios officially got unionized. Yes, it is official. Disney Animation is now under contract with the Animation Guild. Yes, so it's now, this was something that I gotta say, it's been quite a while that they have been in this battle, that they have been trying for quite some time to actually go and to get themselves unionized. It's been ever since the end of September in 2023 that they went on to go and pursue and actually get union representation from the Animation Guild. And after the months of negotiating and discussing with both Disney and the Animation Guild, they were finally able to go and get themselves unionized. So now, the stuff that they are receiving, it actually says right over here from my source on the Animation Guild that now, let's see. Okay, so under this contract that Disney Animation has, Production workers will now receive many of the same protections as their artistic counterparts, including pension and health benefits. Moreover, substantial wage increase to the minimums have been secured. A 24% increase for production managers, a 29% increase for production supervisors, and a 35% increase for production coordinators, the lowest paid workers in the union. Now, we even got a quote here coming from the Animation Guild organizer, Allison Smart, in which Allison says right over here, during this shutdown in entertainment production, during this downturn in entertainment production, production management workers at one of the most powerful corporations in the world stood up and demanded more. Their daily fight for fair treatment and pay is often outside the public eye. They've been signing petitions, marching to deliver signatures, staging courageous silent protests in front of executives, and regularly engaging in the fight for their fair share for years, setting an inspiring example. They've won a historic contract that will have positive impact long into the future and throughout the animation industry, and I know they aren't done yet. And at the same time, it ain't just Disney Animation that is done, but also the Animation Guild is not done with their pursuit of where to go next. Because even though with Disney Animation, it is actually stated that they are now, I believe it is said right over here. Yes, it pretty much says that with Walt Disney Animation Studios, they have officially ratified their first union contract with the Animation Guild. Now the next step is to go and talk to DreamWorks Animation. And we even got a quote here from Nicholas Ellingsworth, a production supervisor, who actually stated over here, in Hollywood, we love an underdog story. Our ratification was just that. The underrepresentation and underpaid coming together and demanding better pay and equity with our artistic counterparts. In the end, we were heard and seen, and we have a pathway to further improving the conditions in which production management works. We know our colleagues at DreamWorks Animation are in the middle of their negotiation, and we're wishing them all the luck, patience, and perseverance in their conversations. Production management is no stranger to strategizing, to achieving their goals, and navigating unexpected obstacles. There is no doubt they'll come out on top. And the reason why they are doing a negotiation to go and ratify a union contract with them is especially to go and make significant updates with DreamWorks Animation now that they have become a major studio, not just producing animated features, but also producing a lot of streaming shows as well. So the contract is more to go and represent all of DreamWorks Animation, rather if they're working on a series or on a movie. But back onto Disney Animation, holy crap, I never thought that I would actually see the day that Disney Animation is getting unionized. And that is mainly because if you know Disney, then you know that they are infamously against unions. My God, they hate the unions like they are the godforsaken plague. And they have a long history of doing so many tactics where they would go and jump and avoid as much of the unions as they can in order to go and save them costs. Which I know it is weird considering that they would go and give out like huge, ridiculous budgets onto their movies, but I will go and get back to that. And especially when it comes to Disney, I feel like with Disney Animation, they did go and actually unionize at the perfect time. And by the way, just to go back in my previous statement, like this is just to go and say that with Disney's history of being against unions, it isn't just like a recent thing, but this has gone like all the way back to like the days of Walt Disney. Walt himself has been against unions. And I'll even say, like, with a lot of people asking about, like, oh, what would have Walt Disney have done and stuff like that, they would go, like, Walt Disney would look at what's been happening right now at Disney Animation with their unions, and I could tell you he's rolling in his grave. And I'll say right now, good. Because honestly, as much as I love Walt Disney, not all of his ideas are great. they could either age like milk or they're just flat out cringe. I mean, let's be honest. Like, his original idea of Epcot, kind of weird that Walt Disney would want to go and unironically have his own city. And then you also got the Hall of Presidents. Yeah, that thing's gotta go. I know that's a hot take, but honestly, I think we're kind of better off without the Hall of Presidents. And then there's also like, I'm trying to think of what else was like a really terrible idea that Walt had. I don't know. Honestly, well, okay, like, yeah, there are those things. And then there's also, well, so Disney's America. Okay, hold on. I don't think Disney's America was an idea that Walt Disney had. That's more of an Eisner thing, more so than a Disney thing. But yeah, some people are bringing up, what makes the red man red? Yeah, Song of the South, maybe. But especially, like, his stance against unions was a serious flaw that Walt Disney had. And honestly, I am glad that now Disney, and especially Disney Animation, has moved on from that stance that Walt Disney had, and now animators can legitimately have a union to go and protect themselves. And like I said before, this actually came at such a perfect time, because in this current ecosystem in entertainment, having a union has become more important than ever, considering that mass layoffs, like what we have just talked about with the Sesame Street story, like, they're becoming very common. And that is especially the case with Disney, whom in the past recent years has done a whole bunch of layoffs in order to go and save costs, rather it be for COVID or for whatever reason, in order to go and save up on like billions of dollars. Like, they would, like, now, like, the way that employees are being treated, not just at Disney, but like in entertainment in general, or even in the workforce in general, like, they're being commonly discarded, and they need something to go and actually, or like the workers need something to go and actually defend their rights. And especially now, from what we are hearing, what's been happening with studios that don't have unions and stuff like that, and that is especially the case with Pixar, often they can be exploited and there can be some severe consequences. Like, you probably remember last year when I talked about the whole story about the production of Inside Out 2, and how that turned out to be like a massive nightmare, down to the point where like the animators and the artists and the people working on the film, they were treating it like as if their lives were on the line with that entire project. And unfortunately, there were some consequences in which some of the employees had to be let go and didn't receive any of the bonuses they would have had because of Inside Out 2's great success. And it sucks. And keep in mind, it's not just with Pixar and Disney that is the problem. Like, we have been hearing more and more of these stories that are happening with other studios. And another great example is 2 years prior, with the whole thing with Sony Pictures Animation and the production of Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. How that was also a complete nightmare, because the studio that was working on that project, or the studio that made the animation of it, Sony Pictures Imageworks, is non-union. And how it turns out that Phil Lord and Chris Miller have a long history, and this is especially with Phil Lord, have a long history of cruelly exploiting animators whenever they would go and like completely change up whatever ideas that they would have. Like, have this very incompetent and toxic work environment, down to the point where Lord and Miller can be best described as the American version of MAPPA. And that is mainly because these people are not unionized, so you end up with people like Lord and Miller doing whatever they want, down to the point that they're trying to sacrifice the well-being of their workers in order to make better art, which that should never happen. No matter how good the project may be, you should never go and sacrifice something like that in terms of like people's well-being. So going back into Disney animation, yeah, it's something that is absolutely necessary. And not to mention that this is something that recently did occur with Disney Animation, technically. Like just last week, I talked about the news about Tiana being canceled. And from there, now we got a whole bunch of layoffs that occurred in the Vancouver division of Disney Animation, because now Disney is trying to step back from doing more of these like Disney Plus projects. And, now the Vancouver division is becoming less and less of a priority. Again, I still do believe that there might come a day that Disney Animation Vancouver might close down entirely. And it would definitely suck. But still, though, like Disney is able to go and do these like drastic decisions, mainly because the ones in Vancouver, they're not unionized. So at least now with Disney Animation, the employees there, they have something to go and defend themselves. They got something to go and protect themselves from whatever crazy decisions that Disney would go and do. Now, I know at this point, some people might go and ask, okay, well, if Disney Animation is going to be unionized now, does that mean they can go and make better projects? Are the movies and the stuff that they're creating, will they become better as a result of the employees being unionized? And I will say, most likely, yes, because that's going to be a key factor to go and help the employees to have, a better well-being, so that they could go and take care of themselves a lot better while working at Disney Animation. And as you probably know, when people are at their best, that means they can go and perform better, so that whatever they're working on can also be at their best as well. So for people wondering about the movies, if Disney Animation can get better, then yes, then you could take the fact that Disney Animation and the employees being unionized, well, that's a sign that things can actually be better for not just the workers, but for the movies as well. So you could go and take that as a massive sign. Now, I know that maybe I might be dreaming when I would go and ask for this as well, but as wonderful as it is that Disney Animation is now officially unionized with the Animation Guild, the next step that I really want to see happen, and one company that, oh my God, does it desperately need it, Pixar. I would love for the day to see that the animators and the artists and the employees at Pixar, that they get unionized as well. I know that this is going to be an extremely tough battle, but honestly, considering from what we have recently heard with what has happened with Inside Out 2 and the production of that movie, along with some of the others, like with the upcoming films, Elio and Hoppers and stuff like that, yeah, I think it is long overdue that the employees at Pixar definitely need to get unionized, so that they can have some form of rights to go and protect their own well-being from the grueling production that they would have to go and face. And I know some people might go and criticize the Animation Guild and how the recent contract that they have formed with the AMPTP isn't necessarily the best, but then again, having some form of a union is still better than having no union whatsoever. So overall, I just want to say congratulations to the team at Walt Disney Animation Studios for the massive win of getting unionized, and I hope that those benefits will all help you well in your artistry in, well, no pun intended, but creating magic. All right, so with that said, now I would like to go onto the chat wall, and I'd like to ask you all, what do you all think about Disney Animation getting unionized? Are you guys excited for that moment? Do you have any extra questions you would like to go and ask? Let me know what you all think on this. All right, so let me see here now. I am so happy that the Disney animators have finally gotten their fair deal and the workers' benefits they deserve. They could and should have gotten this way back in 1941, but Walt just had to paint his animators as communists. I just hope this means the Disney executives can no longer censor LGBTQ plus themes in their movies, especially if Pixar unionizes so Incredibles 3 can be about Helen and Evelyn's love and passion. Okay, hold on a sec there. Now you're just going into like fan shipping territory. Like, wait, which direction are you going? Like, I was on board with you and setting sail on that, but then suddenly you're going in this weird direction. It's like, why are we steering towards DeviantArt? Where are you going with this? Oh God, oh Lord. Oh boy. But yeah, honestly, okay, I don't know, like, to that certain extent. I don't know if unions are able to go and protect animators so that they're allowed to go and put in LGBTQ plus themes onto their movies and stuff like that. I don't know if they would have enough power to go and actually do so. But still, though, it is still good to have so that, their well-being can actually be protected. So just want to go and mention that. Anyways, let's see here. Glad to hear there's a stronger and bigger unionizing Walt Disney Animation Studios courtesy of the Animation Guild. This is what I love to see. Why? Because they are one of the nicest folks in the Hollywood industry. Yes, I do know a few folks in the studio that were unionized for a while, but I'm glad the others in the studio will get it and that they all earned it. Major congrats to my buds at the studio. Hope to visit again soon. Yes, yeah, I definitely do understand what you're talking about. Yes, it is true that, like, even long before this did happen, like, there are some animators in there who did get unionized, but they had to be unionized individually. They wouldn't be in an environment, they wouldn't be in a studio that fully represented for all their employees. And that could be a factor that is a little bit problematic and complicated right there. But at least now with the whole studio being unionized and having all the artists and animators be represented by the Animation Guild, it does make things simpler and it makes it more reassuring that they can go and actually, to make sure that, so that their rights can be protected. Anyways, this is definitely a major win. Seeing Disney Animation finally getting unionized is fantastic, and I definitely am hoping that they will have a bright future. Seriously, considering how anti-union Disney is, that's crazy. Now I'm hoping Pixar can get unionized next. Of course. Let's see now. This reminds me of that one Disney Plus documentary on Frozen 2. All the animators were crunched by the company to get this movie done as fast as they can so that they could put it in theaters. That's why Frozen 2 felt underdeveloped than a movie that lives up to the first. I mean, I did enjoy Frozen 2, and I mean, considering like what did happen during production, like it did manage to come out like a lot better than most movies that would have that time crunch. And I mean, keep in mind, like, Frozen 2 wasn't the only one that did so. And I mean, keep in mind, like, there are films like Toy Story 2, which is like a very prominent example. And not to mention with Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, again, another one that has done so. And they both came out like amazingly well. And I'd even say to a certain extent, Frozen 2 also. But then again, I do agree with you that with what happened during production, like, yeah, that shouldn't really be something that would happen. Like, that was a bit extreme and a bit off. So hopefully there will be less incidents like that that would go and actually occur. Anyways, let's see, what else do we have here? Glad to hear that this is happening as their union dodging days are starting to go far behind. I mean, 1941 is long past us. Art Babbitt is not smiling, and he is seeing this, and Walt is going insane in heaven telling others what the hell happened to his studio. Also, Walt, you're not innocent. Look at Song of the South and Hall of Presidents. Yeah, just like what I said here. Let's see, what else? I guess at some point this was soon to be about what happened in Disney course of their time. Unlike Walt, however, I'm not saying he's a bad guy, but I can understand maybe he couldn't handle it all the time after dealing with Art Babbitt. That's right, I know my history. All is to say that this is a major W for the animation and the team at Disney to make more amazing future projects. I mean, after flops like Strange World or Moana 2, this really gave a spark of hope to bring back, to be back in the game making blockbusters. Well, okay, I know that technically that the reactions to Moana 2 are not the strongest per se, but I mean, technically with Moana 2, it is considered to be a blockbuster. I mean, we are talking about a movie that did make over $1 billion at the box office. So in that regards, like, things are already picking up for Disney Animation in terms of the business aspect. But hopefully with this, though, they will also pick up in terms of the creative aspect. All right, I think I'll read one more comment and then, critically. Okay, yeah, there we go. There is that correction right there. Anyways, let's see now. I couldn't be happier to hear this news. It's honestly refreshing and amazing to see their animation division finally getting unionized. It's a long time coming for the big changes, and I'm very happy that the animators there are finally getting good pay and treatment. Hopefully, after the guild made a deal with DreamWorks, it'll be Pixar's turn to do the same. Art Babbitt is now smiling in the skies because of the news. He tells Walt, "See, I told you unions are good." Yes, we will see in the future how many more studios can actually get ratified by the union or ratify their contract with the Animation Guild. Like maybe with not only with Pixar, but also maybe with Sony, with Illumination, and several others. But again, congratulations to the team at Disney Animation for getting this contract and to be unionized. All right, so now we're going to go on to our next break. And when we do come back, we got more Disney news to go and cover. And this is in regards to an upcoming Disney Plus series that is in the works. And may I say, this one definitely is full of surprises. And let's just say that it is definitely quite lucky to have a prominent filmmaker on board with this. So stay tuned for that. All right, welcome back. Now, when it comes to our next story, we're actually going to be seeing a bit of a revival of an animated classic. Now, I know that I already said that this is part of a Disney story, and when it comes to this revival of an animated classic, some people might think, "Oh God, no, not another live-action remake!" Oh, no. I mean specifically a classic cartoon star. And apparently, Disney has some plans in order to go and bring him back into the mainstream. Now, they have recently tried a few times, especially in terms of a game that I personally love. But this time around, now apparently this character is going to be getting something a little bit bigger, and that is a Disney Plus series. And not only a Disney Plus series, one that is going to be from the one and only Jon Favreau. Yes, it has been reported that Jon Favreau is currently going to be working on a Disney Plus series based on Oswald the Lucky Rabbit. Now, at this point, though, it is still very early in production, so there's not necessarily a whole lot that we know about this project specifically. What we do know, however, is that not only is Jon Favreau going to be on board with this, but he's also going to be both the producer and the writer. And as for this project itself, what we know is that apparently it will be an animated live action series. So it's going to be that kind of a hybrid kind of show. And Oswald the Lucky Rabbit himself is said to be a saucy, self-absorbed bunny. And so far, that's pretty much it that we know about this project. Even in this article here from Deadline, the rest of it is just explaining like a brief summary on the history of Oswald the Lucky Rabbit, as well as some credentials about Jon Favreau, and especially a lot of his works that he has done with Disney and some of the upcoming Star Wars projects that he has with the company. So I gotta say, like, okay, I gotta admit, I did not expect this. Now, one thing that I did know is that Disney wants to do some kind of major plan with Oswald the Lucky Rabbit. In fact, this was not actually the first time that Disney wanted to create an Oswald the Lucky Rabbit series. A few years ago, there was an animated show that was planned, and it was developed by animation veteran Matt Danner. Unfortunately, it did get canceled. But Matt Danner actually did state that even though they scrapped that series, Disney was still highly interested in doing something with Oswald the Lucky Rabbit. They know that there is massive intrigue for Oswald, but they want to try to figure out what to go and do. And as for that series itself, I remember there were a few clips that was sharing around in terms of that scrap project. But from what I found, it looked like it was going to be very similar to something like, The Cuphead show. It was basically this old throwback to classic cartoons of like the 1920s, 30s, and stuff like that. It would be in that rubber hose style animation, and it would be in that 1920s and 1930s setting. Except instead of being Cuphead, it would feature Oswald the Lucky Rabbit. So that was basically the idea, but I mean, hey, it sucks that we lost it, but it's not a big loss, I find, because, well, we already got the Cuphead show that pretty much delivered a lot of the same things. But now, apparently, we are going to be getting another shot at an Oswald series, but this time, now they're saying it's going to be an animation, a live-action hybrid. And a lot of people have speculated so far that maybe this means that we're going to be getting something that is more in the veins of like Who Framed Roger Rabbit or the recent Chip 'n Dale Rescue Rangers movie, where it's going to be this entire show where it will be set in a live-action world, but it will also have cartoons coincide with people and stuff like that. And then, well, of course, you got Oswald the Lucky Rabbit, who is the main star. Now, there is no confirmation if the plot will specifically be about that, but it does make things interesting to learn about this live-action animation hybrid. But I gotta say, for me, honestly, this has immediately got my interest for two reasons specifically. Number one, it's not just the fact that it will be an Oswald the Lucky Rabbit series, but it's the fact of what they have described Oswald as, which is a saucy and self-absorbed bunny. So this isn't just Oswald the Lucky Rabbit like in the cartoons and stuff like that. This honestly sounds a lot like Oswald the Lucky Rabbit, like he was in Epic Mickey. I think it is safe to say that if you know me, you know that I love Epic Mickey. In fact, just not too long ago, a few months back, I actually did put out a major review of Disney Epic Mickey Rebrush. So yeah, and in that video, I showed how much of a committed Epic Mickey fan that I am. And in the game, honestly, I can easily see it that with Oswald the Lucky Rabbit in there, he is exactly that he is saucy and that he is self-absorbed, especially with how he was just so fueled with jealousy over Mickey Mouse, and that he is stuck in a position that he would not want to be whatsoever. It's almost like his nightmare scenario where the world that he helped create is now in complete ruin. And now in order to go and save that world, he has to team up with the guy that he finds that stole his stardom, that he's the one who has the life that he should be having. You know what I'm saying? So basically with that, so like when you go and play the game, like you could see a lot of like the jealousy or the sauciness that Oswald would go and put out. Like even though he reluctantly joins Mickey to go and save the wasteland, you could tell that he still highly resents him. Like even if you look away like in a different direction, you'll see Oswald just like taunting him or making fun of him. It's all like you'll see like when you interact with Oswald, like when he's in front of Mean Street, like he would just be there, like you turn around and he's just like, ah! And then like you see him and he's just. So that's just like an example of his personality. And not to mention, like, yeah, he is also very self-absorbed. And in the game, that is another very prominent example. In fact, when you enter upon Mean Street and you're in the area where you have to select like which land you got to go into, like which one of the different levels. Like, there is a statue of, or there's like a different version of the partner statue, which features Walt Disney, and beside him, instead of Mickey, it's Oswald the Lucky Rabbit. And not to mention, when you go into his lair, it's pretty much all Oswald. Like, there are even images of Mickey Mouse where he would just like completely like try to trace over or change up, where instead of the round ears, he would go and put up his long bunny ears as well. So in that regard, it's very interesting to see that Oswald the Lucky Rabbit from Epic Mickey will also be featured onto this Oswald series. So I'm very interested to see how they're going to go and portray Oswald here, and how much does it connect to Oswald in Epic Mickey. But then there's also the second reason what really got me interested, and that is in regards to Jon Favreau. I mean, yeah, sure. I guess some could argue that eventually there would be this Oswald the Lucky Rabbit. Excuse me. There would eventually be this Oswald the Lucky Rabbit series, but I would have never guessed that out of anybody working on this project, that it would be Jon Favreau to go and step in, not just as a producer, but also as a writer. And honestly, that got me excited to know that, okay, maybe we got something special, because when it comes to Jon Favreau, like, when he can make something work, they can turn into immediate classics. Like, they could turn out to be great projects. I mean, we're talking about the guy who has given us a lot of great stuff. And not to mention, like, this isn't his first time creating a Disney Plus series that turned out great. I mean, we are talking about the guy who is actually responsible for giving us for actually giving us The Mandalorian, that he was a key player in bringing that series to life and turning it into the phenomenon that we know today. Not to mention that he is a key player in keeping the Star Wars legacy alive and still very interesting, even after the sequel trilogy. And then, of course, there are the other movies that he has made that left a great impact onto entertainment. Rather it be being the director of the first Iron Man, he directed what many people agreed to be the best Disney live action remake with The Jungle Book. He's the guy who did Elf. You know, he's done a lot of great stuff that when it works out beautifully. Now, I will go and say, though, that Jon Favreau is not King Midas, though. Even though he did a lot of great projects like Iron Man, The Mandalorian, and a few others like Chef, and I already mentioned Elf and stuff like that, there have been times that he would release projects that are not perfect, per se. You know, there are times when, like, some of the projects that he would go and put out, they could be flawed, rather it be like Cowboys and Aliens, or especially, he is still the guy that did give us the 2019 Lion King remake. So yeah, it does happen when creatively Jon Favreau would put out stuff that are a flop. But when they hit, boy, do they hit hard. They can be fantastic. And that is what I'm hoping that Jon Favreau can go and do with this Oswald the Lucky Rabbit project, that he could think of something creatively genius, that he could go and put out something fun, something great, and something that honors the legacy of Oswald the Lucky Rabbit, both in the past, like during the days of Walt Disney, and nowadays as well. So it's going to be very intriguing to see what will be in store. But I got a feeling that, honestly, there is that chance that it might turn out to be a flop. It might turn out to be a pretty crappy series and it might not be worth it. But then again, there is also that chance that this could legitimately turn out to be not a good show, but a great show. I mean, if Jon Favreau can do wonders with The Mandalorian, I'm honestly excited to see if he could do those same wonders with Oswald the Lucky Rabbit. So I'm going to wish Favreau the best on this project, and I can't wait to see what is in store for the future of Oswald the Lucky Rabbit. All right, so with that said, now I would like to go on to the chat wall, and I'd like to ask you all, how do you feel about this Oswald the Lucky Rabbit Disney Plus series, especially with Jon Favreau working on it? Are you guys excited for this? Are you guys a little bit worried about some of the aspects? Let me know what you all think. All right, let me see. Let's see. Oh my Shyla! Words cannot describe how excited I am for an Oswald show, especially after the animated series planned was shelved. And now it seems like the perfect time to develop one, as the 100th anniversary of Oswald and Mickey are in 2 years, in 27 and 28. I am a bit skeptical on how the live-action animation hybrid route, but I'm hoping it'll go into the route of Roger Rabbit than Chip and Dale. Though honestly, I'll take anything with him, and I swear I'll bring hellfire to Disney if this gets the boot. You hear me, Iger? Yeah, I mean, I'm hoping for the best, and I do hope that that something like this does actually happen. And I mean, you know, it would be awesome to see more of Oswald the Lucky Rabbit in the future in general. I mean, like, again, as a big Epic Mickey fan, I would like to see more of, like, what they would do with some of the obscure Disney characters. In fact, like, just a little idea, like, I would be down to see Disney revive the idea of the Gremlins. Like, and I mean, and I don't mean, like, the Warner Brothers Gremlins. I mean, like, the Gremlins that Walt Disney and Roald Dahl collaborated. The Gremlins that we see pop up from time to time in Epic Mickey. I would love to see if they can develop some kind of idea with those. That would actually be very cool. All right, anyways, I'm guessing after Disney saw how Mickey falling into the public domain turned them into a horror movie villain, they decided they had to be proactive and do more with their character to protect their image. I'm not sold on the idea of this being live-action animation hybrid, but Jon Favreau is a very talented filmmaker when he's not saddled with making a live-action Disney remake. If anyone can make a good series out of the Epic Mickey version of Oswald, is him. Yeah, definitely. But, I mean, keep in mind, like, yeah, I do get it with the Lion King remake. That ain't so great. But the Jungle Book, though, that was pretty solid. That was actually good. Anyways, let's see. As someone who really appreciates Oswald the Lucky Rabbit, this definitely has potential. The idea of having it be an animation live-action hybrid is interesting, and have Jon Favreau as a bonus. And it's nice to see Oswald get more interest after Rebrush. Also, did you know this year we're getting Epic Mickey The Cosmic Collection, featuring the graphic novels of both Epic Mickey games and the Tales of Wasteland comics? Oh, that is interesting. Honestly, the comics collection. Okay, I read that wrong. Sorry. I was like, oh, we're getting a cosmic collection. Oh, how galactical. No. Honestly, for some reason, I might have heard of this like months ago, but somehow that like slipped in my head. Like, I'm just wondering, actually, hold on. Let me just go and double check something. Epic Mickey, the comics collection. I want to see what this is all about. Apparently they say that, okay, there we go. Here, this is just on the, this is just on Amazon, but, apparently this is going to be coming out in July. Okay. So I think it's safe to say in that regards, I got to go and, keep my eye out on this one. All right. Honestly, okay, I need to go and, well, it's not going to be coming out immediately, so at least I'll save up a bit of my money on that. So, yeah, I'm definitely keeping an eye out on that comic, that's for sure. I actually do remember reading Tales of the Wasteland when they were coming out. Like, I remember, like, I actually had the app to go and read those comics, so it's cool to see them actually making a comeback. Anyways, let's see what other comments are there to go and read. Honestly, I could say I am excited for this, but I feel not 100% for this project, especially from Disney. Just to get the negative out of the way, I feel like this could be another Tiana problem. They'll announce it and then they cancel it. But to be positive, I'm on the same page as you, since I do think this could be a heck of an amazing project. In fact, it could be like a reverse Lion King, since in Epic Mickey, he is like Scar if he turned good. Overall, though, not certain they'll keep it, but it helps. I mean, honestly, you could be right. There is, like, in this Hollywood landscape, there is a possibility that things that gets announced that they're just going to go and immediately get scrapped. You know, that could happen. But I am hoping that this does occur because, again, there is a likelihood that this could turn out to actually be not just good, but like full on great. So I'm all in support to see this actually come to life. Let's see, what other comments do we have here now? I remember first seeing Oswald the Lucky Rabbit in a Little Rascals DVD when it features another disc that shows all the classic cartoons like Betty Boop, Popeye, Molly Moo, and of course Oswald himself, with my first Oswald cartoon I saw titled The Mechanical Cow. After seeing Oswald coming back is a true sight to behold. I also watched that short of Oswald trying to get into the movie screen to kiss Hortensia. I'm pretty hyped to see this series, and I'm hoping Jon Favreau can it any good. Oh, okay, I gotcha. Yeah, honestly, and I do understand the short that you are talking about. I think it was part of the 100th anniversary. It was like one of the first things they did is put out that little Oswald cartoon, like just to go and initiate that, like the whole 100th anniversary celebration of the Walt Disney Company. All right, I think I'll go and read one more comment and then we're going to go into our grand finale. So let me see here. Oh, this seems interesting. There was one that I strangely liked the most. It was his final cartoon where he was voiced by Jon Favreau, the lady behind Rocky and Granny. It was the last Oswald cartoon before Disney got him back. And it was created by the man who created Woody Woodpecker. It was called Egg Cracker Sweet. And in it, he was wearing what looks like a red short overalls with only one suspender. I think that is the Oswald I like the most. Oh, that is very interesting because out of all the cartoonists back in the day, it was actually Walter Lantz who got to play with Oswald for the longest time. In fact, before he developed Woody Woodpecker, Walter Lantz was actually handling Oswald the Lucky Rabbit because soon after Walt Disney lost Oswald to Charles Mintz, Universal saw what was going on with those Oswald cartoons and they weren't liking the direction, so they sacked Mintz and the animators that Mintz brought on board and decided to give Oswald to Walter Lantz. And fun fact, by the way, Walt Disney and Walter Lantz, they were actually good friends. And Walt Disney actually did give Lantz, Walt Disney gave his blessing to Lantz to go and work on the Oswald the Lucky Rabbit cartoons. So that's just a little fun fact that I would like to go and share with you all. All right, so now with that said, I think we shall now go and jump onto our final story. But first, we will have a bit of a break. But let me tell you, folks, oh boy, did I save a true grand finale over here. I did save the best for last, as we are going to go and check out a trailer, but not just any trailer. This is one of a scrap project. And this one, though, I think it might be scrapped for some very good reasons, so stay tuned for that. And now, everyone, it is time that we are going to go and cap this episode off with the grand finale. And for this grand finale, we are going to be watching something that is very interesting. A piece of lost media that has been discovered and actually brought to us by the fine folks at Lost Media Busters. Now, I just want to go and say this right now, that I understand that it sucks when a project ends up getting canceled. That you would hear for a long time about how it was in development and how there are many people who would go and work hard on that project only for it to just be scrapped and never see the light of day. It definitely does suck, especially for the people who did work on those projects. And as an actor myself, I did actually get a few experiences where I would be hired to go and voice something or to act in something only for it to never see the light of day. So it is very unfortunate. And I mean, I'm sure you have probably known that kind of feeling, considering that just recently we had the cancellation of Disney's Tiana series, which was very unfortunate to go and hear that it was no longer happening. In fact, it was one of the few things that Disney Animation was developing for Disney Plus that actually sounded very intriguing and very exciting. But when it comes to this project, however, it might be a little bit different. It was pretty controversial when it was announced and when people were talking about it. In fact, people were kind of relieved that this project ended up getting canceled. But was it actually a good thing that it ultimately got scrapped? Well, we're about to find out as we are gonna go and check out the trailer for the canceled CW live-action reboot of the Powerpuff Girl. Oh, son of a fish. Yeah. Should have seen that coming, honestly. Of course, Warner Brothers would go and actually take it down and, like, have it be blocked, you know? Well, good thing I got my plan B going on. Yes, I did actually download it. So, yes, folks, we are gonna go and actually see it. So, let's take a look at this trailer, shall we?
Once upon a time, Professor Drake Utonium created a family of his own.
Powerpuff Girls.
3 pint-sized heroes protecting Townsville from evil. As their fame grew, so did the merch, endorsements, even a cartoon.
Are those the Powerpuff Girls? They're all so cool. Especially Blossom.
But not everyone was a fan.
We've had enough Powerpuff!
As the years passed, there was trouble in Powerpuff Paradise. Blossom was constantly stressed.
Wait, is it daylight savings?
Buttercup was constantly rebellious.
I'm not wearing that dress anymore. It's gender normative and ass ugly.
And Bubbles was constantly drinking.
Go get him!
And on one fateful day, the girls made a fatal error, costing Mojo his life. In the wake of disaster, Blossom ran away. Jojo grew up to be mayor of Townsville. Buttercup became a real hero. And Bubbles, well, she made it all the way to Hollywood Boulevard.
Hi! I'm Bubbles. Everybody wants to talk to fake Jesus. Hi!
Well, oops, baby.
The Powerpuff Girls are coming to town tomorrow.
All 3?
Are the Powerpuff Girls reteaming? Hell no. I am never caping for Townsville again.
The 3 Bs back in Townsville. I didn't want to bring this up yet, but I have reason to believe a darkness may be returning.
Like monsters?
What do you want me to do, Jojo?
I want them to know how it feels to watch their father die.
You obviously want us to reunite, Dad.
Why are you acting like being back together's torture?
Yeah, it was fun when we were just fighting baddies, but it changed. Not to mention that cartoon that completely whitewashed us.
You said you created us because you wanted to be a dad. But then why not just make 3 normal little girls?
That would have been weird.
The goal of this new plan is to crawl into people's brains and then turn their aggrometer up to 10.
The riot started moments ago, the cause of which are still unknown.
Destroy Townsville! All must pay!
Someone's setting him up.
This is the work of Professor Drake Utonium.
Oh my god, they're all possessed. This is exactly like the gathering of the Juggalos.
You've been.
Oh yeah, I'm down with the clown.
Okay.
I have complete control over him.
I'm not a Powerpuff Girl anymore.
You're just a boring grown-up. Hang it up and start a book club.
This is our chance to prove to everybody they were wrong about us.
Yep, I'm good.
Oh my god! That was surprisingly cathartic.
In a sweeping reversal of fate, the Powerpuff Girls are beloved again in Townsville.
You're my daughters first, and your happiness is all that matters.
I'm really sorry for accusing your dad of mass terrorism.
Yeah. Is she flirting? I guess we're even. I mean, we are not even. I mean, just like. He was never obsessed with me.
Yes, he was.
No, he wasn't.
And I bet he still is. But in like an angry, kinky hate boner kind of way. That's the best kind of boner.
And that was Powerpuff, the Powerpuff Girls CW live action reboot series, which is coming out in never. Keep in mind, again, that this whole project was actually scrapped. And honestly, after watching this, yeah, they did a good call. I think this is the one time that Warner Brothers went to go and scrap a project, and I'm like, yeah, you kind of did the good thing there. It had to go, honestly, because, oh boy, where the fridge do I begin with this? Because, okay, like, first off, let me just say that I think it is pretty clear that this feels like a completely failed attempt of trying to make the Powerpuff Girls more mature. Now, what do I mean by mature? Well, to be honest, it's hard to say because not even the show seems to know how to go and do that. Because this entire thing honestly feels like it's a Saturday Night Live parody, and yet it feels very unaware that it's even a parody in the first place. Because there are times when it might feel like it wants to be a comedy. There are times when it wants to try to be a little more gritty, or there are times when it tries to be a bit more political. Like, they want to try to, like, add some mature elements, but they don't know what specifically. Again, it's as if the show doesn't comprehend how to make the Powerpuff Girls mature, so they try to do a whole bunch of different stuff. Rather it be to make the girls older, to be actual, like, young adults. Then there are times when, like, you could feel that it wants to add some kind of political commentary, especially with, oh God, these two. I swear, I will say something about these two. But then there are times, like, you see that with, can't believe I'm saying this, but with Mojo, that they're trying to make some kind of, like, political commentary, or trying to put in some kind of comment to go and say we live in a society or something like that. But it's just whatever direction it tries to go with its more mature theming, it just does not work to begin with. And then there are the revisions on the characters themselves. Like, okay, I understand that you want to try to do some kind of update onto the characters. Like, yeah, this is the Powerpuff Girls, but set several years later. This is like after their fame and stuff like that. Which, oh, and by the way, I also want to go and add, like, the whole meta aspect to the Powerpuff Girls. It's like, oh yeah, we're definitely very aware of, like, the show itself and like the merchandising. Like, yeah, this is supposed to be set in, like, our world where, yeah, just like how we lived in reality, the Powerpuff Girls was, like, a very popular franchise back in the day. Like, they try to do that, but it's like, oh God, I don't know. It doesn't work. And not to mention, it has, like, this, it feels like it's this corporate brand of progressivism. Not that genuine kind, but the kind that white old executive men feel like what progressive is. And they try to go and address, like, social issues about the Powerpuff Girls that doesn't seem to exist. Like, oh look, the Powerpuff Girls are actually whitewashed. It's like, what are you trying to do? Seriously, that part also, it feels very unnecessary. But then going back into the aspect of how they changed up the characters, like, I just gotta say, the most face-palming moment that I've seen, honestly, it's this freaking part right over here. How they updated Mojo Jojo, easily the most iconic villain of the Powerpuff Girls. And I understand maybe they didn't have the budget to go and do this CG monkey, or this CG chimp. They can't do the same thing like what they've done in the recent Planet of the Apes movies. You can't get you can't get Andy Serkis coming in to go and perform like what he did with Caesar. I get that. But this update of Mojo Jojo, where it turns out to be this old man and his kid, it's like, why? Why are you doing, like, come on, this is like an update where you're not even trying. And then it's at the point where later on they decided that, oh, we're not going to go and do like the mayor of the Powerpuff Girls. No, we're not going to have that bumbling character, even though like that guy was absolutely hilarious. No, now we're going to make JoJo the freaking mayor of Townsville, so that now the villain is also the mayor. But if that's not enough, because apparently now they want to do some kind of interesting dynamic where Blossom and where is it? Yeah, like right over here, where Blossom and Mojo Jojo, or JoJo in this case, is a thing. Yes, apparently that seems to be their idea of how they can go and include romance onto this series, is that they want to ship Blossom and Mojo Jojo. No. Okay, no. I don't care what you may think. I don't care what ideas you may have or how you're going to go and change things. No. Just the idea of Blossom and Mojo Jojo is like, no. Okay? I feel, honestly, I know this is a very powerful statement, but personally, that's like an objective no. I don't care how you're going to go and update that, but you cannot go and ship freaking Blossom with Mojo Jojo. There's no way that you could frame it in a way that it sounds actually good. It sounds like it could be intriguing. No, it doesn't. No, it's not. Okay? That's just gross. And then there are the other characters as well who did receive updates. And there's one that honestly, it was one that I'll just say right now. I know that it wasn't their intention. I know that it wasn't their plan. But man, did it age like milk. Because I just want to go and ask you all this. Am I the only one that felt like this show did absolutely wrong to turn Professor Utonium into a black guy named Drake? Now, if they want to go and cast, if they want to cast a black guy to play Professor Utonium, that's fine. I'm cool with it. Like, you want to have more diverse casting. Like, there was also Bubbles. No, not Bubbles, but Buttercup, who was also black. Okay, fine. You want to do that? That's cool. I'm fine with that. I'm perfectly okay with it. But it's just the added layer of having Drake in the name. And yes, by the way, some people are saying it's like, isn't it Greg? No. They made it clear. It is Professor Drake Utonium. Let me just go and back this up. Where is it right now? Hold on a sec. Where would it be? Yeah, okay, it's right over here. So just have a listen again.
Someone's setting him up.
This is the work of Professor Drake Utonium.
He said it very clear. Professor Drake Utonium. And as I pause on this woman trying to be freaking Donkey Kong right over here. But yeah, honestly, again, I understand that's not their intention, but that's just one thing that feels like it's just oof. I mean, knowing what we know about Drake, it's just like, nah, you just made this even more cursed. Like, honestly, now that they made Professor Utonium a black guy named Drake, all I can imagine is just freaking Mojo Jojo being right in front of the professor and being like, "Say, Drake, I hear you like I'm young. You better never go to cell block 1. It's just, God, man. Like, I understand it's not the series' fault, but man, no, that's just a horrible idea. And then there's also the factor of the Powerpuff Girls themselves and the way that they have aged. And I mean, there could be some interesting ways that you can make them grow up, but honestly, it's the factor of when you would add the adult things is where it goes wrong. Now, I will say, to give this credit, the ideas that they had, honestly, it feels fine. Like with Blossom, for example, with her being more anxious, okay, that's cool. With Buttercup and how she grew up to be like a firefighter, like to turn things around where she wants to be like a real hero, take it seriously. All right, like to avoid her rebellious nature, that's actually cool. That's a great idea. But then you got freaking Bubbles. And oh my God, what have they done to my girl Bubbles? They made her this freaking like I know this is going to be like, this is wrong for me to say, but my God, they whored her up, didn't they? Like, they try to make her as like this party girl who loves to drink, and like have her be on like on Hollywood Boulevard, like trying to make some money. It's just, yeah, man, it is a sad sight of how they made Bubbles older. It's just, nah, man. I mean, that they really did Bubbles dirty. And this is not even to mention some of the dialogue that they have to give to the girls, especially, the ending. Oh my God, that last little bit of when they were just talking to each other. Like, right over here. Like this part.
I bet he still is, but in like an angry, kinky hate boner kind of way.
That's the best kind of boner.
You guys remember when people were mad at the 2016 reboot? When the Powerpuff Girls were like twerking and stuff like that? Remember when people got upset and disgusted about that thing in the 2016 reboot? This right here, I think it is worse. You think twerking is wrong? Wait till you hear the Powerpuff Girls talking about boners of all things. That is something I never thought I would ever get to say. The Powerpuff Girls talking about frickin' boners. And it's Bubbles out of the three that has to go and say, it has to sound the sluttiest by saying, yeah, that's the best kind of boner. My favorite kind of boners, though, are the ones that are hardcore. Like, why? Why do you turn them like this? Why do you go, like, again, this is another major problem of the series, not understanding on how to make the Powerpuff Girls mature. Because making them talk about boners is not the direction you think it would go. Like, that's something that you would expect Adult Swim to go and do. That's something you would expect Robot Chicken to go and do for the purpose of a laugh. But this right over here, to try to portray the Powerpuff Girls as older and that they would have older interests and stuff like that, no, it does not work. So overall, when it comes to this trailer, or I would say this is more of a pitch than it is an actual trailer. I feel like this is not necessarily something to show like to the public and stuff like that. I feel like this is something that feels like this is meant for executives to go and sell onto the series to convince them that yes, this is worth investing. This is worth to go and show on the CW and stuff like that. So I feel like this is more of like a pitch reel than it is a trailer. But still though, man, it did not work to go and sell this series. It feels like a disaster. And honestly, the CW did the smart thing to go and avoid that. This is almost like what people accused Velma of doing. Because this is a series in which they would try to portray the Powerpuff Girls in a more mature way and try to implement mature themes. But man, did they fail to do so. Not to mention the production budget feeling like a Saturday Night Live parody. The way that the characters are handled is just an absolute mess. And it just feels, honestly, it feels wrong. Honestly, this is the kind that makes me feel dirty, but in an unpleasant way. This just doesn't feel right overall. So yeah, honestly, like I am sorry for the people who worked on this series that, honestly, it didn't work out. Like, I feel bad for them that, the work that they put onto this, it would never see the light of day. But in my opinion, like, in terms of the series itself, it's like, yeah, honestly, we dodged a bullet on that one. And maybe the people who worked on it, like, I mean, they already got paid for what they've done with it, but they've also dodged a bullet because honestly, that, like, those actors who have worked on it, they definitely deserve a lot better than this. All right, so with that said, now I would like to go onto the chat wall, and I'd like to ask you all, what did you all think about that Powerpuff Girls reboot trailer. Do you disagree with me and actually liked what you have seen? Or were you completely disgusted about what you have witnessed? Let me know what you all think. All right, let me see here now. That is the Powerpuff Girls? Wow, no wonder the whole thing got canceled. Mojo going from monkey to man, evolution of man reference for the Powerpuff Girls movie, anyone? Professor Drake Utonium, weird. Mojo becoming a mayor, like in a special or episode with just JoJo's name. And was that supposed to be his son by his side? All of this, just to name a few, I prefer the canons of these girls, including their anime counterpart, Powerpuff Girls Z. Yeah, and yes, by the way, Mojo and JoJo are supposed to be this father-son duo. So yes, JoJo is the son of Mojo. Who is the mother? That, honestly, I don't know. And I don't even want to know, because so far in the series, what we have just seen, like, they only presented 2 villains, technically. We only got Mojo Jojo as Mojo and Jojo, and we also got Princess, who is seen as this generic supervillain. Like, we don't get any of, like, the jealousy. Like, she's honest, like, I feel like with the way that they portrayed Princess, she's very much this, like, honestly, you don't see the traits of her being like this spoiled brat or like easily jealous of the Powerpuff Girls. Like, she's just presented as like the typical evil genius. That's it. Like, she's the evil brains of this entire show, and that's it. But yeah, honestly, I don't even want to know who would be considered the mother of JoJo. Maybe I don't know, maybe it's like in the series, they got this Yoko Ono style villainess that they had in mind, that she wouldn't communicate. All she would do is just screech, like they would be, they would just look into, Mojo, and that villain would just see into their eyes. And then like the Yoko Ono villain would just be there like, I don't know if anybody remembers that episode right there. All right, let's see now. Okay, college humor, very funny. Now, where's the real plot? Wait, this is the real one? As John Tron would say, I have several questions. Like, this is a failed attempt at keeping the comedy cartoon vibe of the OG show, but wants to make it mature and meta. And on paper, the concept of girls being older does sound like an interesting idea, but it just fails miserably. I'm so glad they scrapped this, and some things should stay on paper. Now, let's all apologize to 2016. Actually, no, never mind. Yeah, exactly. Because all of this really feels like it's some kind of satire. It's meant to be like this parody, and yet it's not. Like, they're actually unironically showing this as a real thing. And especially with, if you're going to go and make a series like the Powerpuff Girls, you should have given this like a bigger budget. This should have been something more in the scale of what they have done with some of the DC shows like The Flash and Arrow and like the entire Arrowverse, instead of something like this. In fact, that should have been a way to go and approach a more mature Powerpuff Girls series. If you want to make them older, if you want to make them more mature, try to make something that is more reminiscent to something like the Arrowverse shows, instead of doing like whatever the fridge you're doing right over here. Honestly, there could have been a direction they could have gone that would have worked, but this ain't it. Let's see now. As much as I am against the idea of things getting canceled, this was justifiable. I remember I was shocked when this trailer leaked, and it was worse than I expected. The leaked script was bad enough, but this is even worse. And I'm grateful this thing is dead, and it's an insult to the original series. Also, it's worth noting that everything that was in this trailer was in the leaked script. Well, it turned out to actually be true, though. Oh, boy. All right. Anyways, honestly, I never thought it could possibly get any worse than the 2016 reboot, but all I could say is thank God Warner Brothers did the right thing by canceling. By the way, if you want to see a modern Powerpuff Girls done right, I highly recommend watching the crossover they just did with Jellystone, which was a much better shipping with Mojo Jojo and Cindy Bear. Yeah, I think that is the big message of this episode overall. Go and watch the big, go watch the big Jellystone crossover series with all the Cartoon Network characters, because apparently that seems to be a banger of an episode right there. All right, let's see what we got here. To quote Mr. Harriman, what is the meaning of this? This trailer is why shareholders that have very little multicultural knowledge should stay away from, American values. I'm not playing again. Like I'm not gonna say DEI. I'm still sticking with American values here. Aging up the Powerpuff Girls specifically for sex has implications galore that fail to beat the pedopuff allegations. Thanks, Drake. Oh boy, that whole chestnut. You know, honestly, it actually reminds me of this one scene from the original Powerpuff Girls series that I feel like is oddly enough a much better shipping than what they presented here. Now, I probably have talked about this before, and like you tell me if this actually did happen in the show. But I remember it was I think it must have been like a weird dream sequence where it was a wedding where Professor Utonium and all the residents of Townsville were all there to see the professor getting married to Miss Bellum. And then there was the moment that Miss Bellum as the bride, she walks in, you know, and they were having that moment. And then Professor Utonium was ready to go and like put up the veil. And everybody was suddenly shocked because instead of a face reveal of Miss Bellum, it turns out to be Mojo Jojo. And then he was there trying to be romantic to Utonium. He was like, you cannot resist me. Now, can you tell me if that was real? It sounds like a weird fever dream, but I swear that actually did exist. Oh my God, it was such a crazy moment in the series and somehow really stuck out to me because even as a kid, I was there like, what the fridge did I just watch? Oh boy. But anyways, I think I only have time for one more comment here. So let me see where it would be. Who will have the last? Oh, okay. I think I'll go. Yep, I'm going to go with this one. I am glad that this reboot never got the green light as it goes way against what the Powerpuff Girls are supposed to be, with out of characters saying lack of faithfulness to the original and personality changes. They should have revived the original version of the show, just like how Family Guy came back from cancellation without a change in quality or design. The only Professor Drake that I think is better than this is Professor Ludwig von Drake. Amen to that. My God. Von Drake, such an underrated character. Love to see that. I really want to see that love for Ludwig von Drake there. All right, so with that said, that should do it for today's episode of AniMat's Crazy Cartoon Cast. Thank you all so much for joining me on this, and tune in next time for more wild stories that will be coming in the world of animation and more. And if you enjoyed your time here on AniMat's Crazy Cartoon Cast and you want to go and follow for more of these episodes, then don't forget to go and subscribe to me, whether it be on the AniMat's Crazy Cartoon Cast YouTube channel or the Animat Live Twitch channel. But at the same time, if you are listening to me in whatever podcast service you're listening to, then don't forget to follow me there, whether it be on Spotify, Amazon, Apple, and more. And with all that said, I would like to say thank you all so much for listening. Thank you all so much for watching. And until next time, see you later, dudes.